Benjamin Franklin once said, "For want of a nail, the shoe was lost. For want of a shoe, the horse was lost. For want of a horse, the battle was lost. For want of a battle, the kingdom was lost." Shoe, horse, battle, and kingdom all fail, and all for the loss of a horseshoe nail. As Benjamin Franklin quite clearly shows, without the smallest person in the land, the kingdom fails. And in the context of the Philippines, where political development has led to the smallest people in the land being completely excluded and marginalised from any type of political negotiations due to either the fact of their status, their poverty, and to their citizenship or lack thereof, this statement can be completely confirmed. As we saw in the Philippines, the country is riddled with corruption, wherein the disparity of wealth allows for corruption to be present at the highest level and for its roots to run deep to the poorest pauper in the land. This is where you find the Badjao tribe. There is very little hope of prosperity. They are being pushed forever closer to the edge, quite literally. From what we have learnt and from what we have seen, there is very little action that can be taken from an outside body that will do anything but become a band-aid to a bullet wound. While some die in luxury, the Badjao are faced with starvation, malnutrition, and living in conditions beyond the brink of squalor. This is their story. In order to discuss properly the issues of political development, let's first begin with the illustration that can be so easily taken from the volunteers and the children in this video. Obviously, in most developing countries, there are fundamental flaws in the system, and the Philippines is no exception. This point is particularly reiterated in the context of the Badjao, where, whilst the circle of life continues with an ever-growing population, not enough is being done to nurture such a chain reaction. The housing conditions become more cramped, there is no surplus of food, the people begin to tire and weaken, and there is a growing underlayer of anger that is very close to eruption in some cases. The Badjao, like the ball in this video, are thrown from one pillar to the next, and as stated before, they are literally living on the edge of life. With an ever-growing Cebuano population straining their space, it is only a matter of time before the underlying problems rise to the surface. All of this begs the question, what is being done about it? The government in a recent campaign has sought to feed the Badjao children attending school. However, this meal only comes when school is in session, and the programme came to an end in its entirety in August. Suddenly the line, "band-aid to a bullet wound," becomes an understatement. During our time spent with the Badjao, the government decided, in their infinite wisdom, to clean the water to make conditions better for them. One day a digger arrived, and it sat there. Whether it will actually do any work remains to be seen. In an interview with the mayor of Cebu, questions were asked about the Badjao, but he simply had an inability to give any kind of direct answer. Ever the politician, he danced around the issues, following through with what can only be described as an idealism. This idea of a policy of light and bringing electricity to people. However, if such a point was to be put ever into practice, it would without a doubt aid the situation. But as common sense is obviously not so common, what is the point in bringing electricity to people who can either afford it or have lived with it their entire lives? The question that needed to be asked was whether or not he believed and whether or not anything was going to be done about sanitary conditions and clean drinking water. And as you can see from the video, the frustration, the rest of the volunteers and myself tells it all.